What's up, guys? So I haven't made a video like this in a very long time. As you can see, there's no whiteboard. It's just you, me, and a camera. So earlier when I opened it up on my Instagram talking about, I was having trouble focusing on me. I know I move around a lot. About what I should talk about, people said to just start with my story from the beginning. So that's what I'm going to do here today. I don't know if I'll fit it all in one video because sometimes when I start talking, I just kind of take a lot of, I wind and I weave and I end up in all kinds of neighborhoods I didn't need to end up in. So we'll see where we end up. I don't have any notes. I'm just going rambling off the rip here. So back to the beginning. I grew up in a big family, 5 kids. I was homeschooled up until high school. And I did play some sports. I played baseball, but I was always a small kid, so no basketball, no football. And then in high school, I decided that sports weren't cool anymore. My last year playing baseball, I got a ball to the eye socket and it really spooked me. And besides just the fact that that happened, I decided that sports weren't cool anymore and I just started skateboarding. And I was probably 13, 14 then. Um, so around then, my dad didn't love skateboarding because, as you can imagine, being homeschooled, I grew up in a strict Christian household, and especially back then, skateboarding was very rebellious and punk rock, and he didn't love it. And of course, the father-son thing, he couldn't do it with me, so he would suggest alternate activities for me to do. One of those was tennis. I played a little bit of tennis. Um, Sometimes I'll still take a crack at it. It's actually one thing that I said for 2025 that I want to play a little more tennis, but we won't get on a tangent with that. But the big thing that he wanted to do with me is he said, we're going to go to the gym. And when he initially said that, I was very upset about it. And I said, that's so uncool. You know, the gym is for jocks and losers, and that's not who I am. So we started going to the gym, and I took a class with all these other young boys who were probably 13 or 14 years old, and of course we were all trying to be the strongest guys. Was at a county rec center, and I won't say that I immediately decided that it was part of my identity, but I did enjoy it. And I did it for, let's see, I was 14 when I took that class, and I trained like that for a couple years. And then I don't know why I just had this crisis, and I said, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go back and just be a skater. So stopped lifting, and I lost a lot of weight. And I won't get too deep into this, but at that age, I really struggled with eating disorders and just having a terrible image of myself and being absolutely terrified of getting fat to the point where I would rather be dead than be fat. And I would starve myself, I would throw up, I would do anything. So that was for about a year and a half, 2 years. And then when I was 17, I was 110 pounds. When I went back to school junior year, at this point for high school, I was sent to a Christian high school because I begged. I had 3 little sisters and I begged. I was like, you guys have to let me go to school. So they sent me to a Christian high school. So when I went back junior year, everyone looked at me and was like, what happened? What happened to you? Because I looked terrible. I was the same height I am now, 5'7", and 110 pounds. And really on that, after the first day, I can remember something switched in my head and I said, I'm going to change and I'm going to take control. Because at that point, those negative thoughts of myself and the eating disorders, they had control over me. And I said, I'm going to start eating and I'm going to start lifting. And that was my way of taking control of the situation. And in a way, I did it to save my life. And it's really interesting because my body at that state was just in this prime state to just blow up. Kind of like after someone does a really intense contest diet and then they rebound, right? So because I had been living that way and I started eating and training, I blew up. And within a year, I had gone from 110 to probably 160. I think it was a little under 170. And I was very lean. And it became something that people knew me for, of like, Aaron's jacked, Aaron, I had no interest in anything else. I did not want to have a cell phone because when I got home from school, it was gym time, and I didn't want anybody to be able to contact me. So I was all about it. I didn't drink, I didn't party, I didn't do anything. I just trained, and I wasn't a good student. I guess we'll go into that a little bit. I didn't like school. Like I said, I was kind of I was a skater. I always have been into drawing and music and just kind of going against what you're supposed to do. So the fact that it was school and a Christian school, I wasn't a good student. I liked to make people laugh, so I would draw cartoons and pass them around. When I would get writing assignments, my goal was not to get a good grade, it was to make my teacher laugh. So yeah, all that time I didn't care about my grades. I didn't really care about anything other than making people laugh and working out. And so that's senior year, I continue, and after high school, I was sent to a Christian college in Ohio called Cedarville, and that was interesting. I think that I just didn't care about school, and I didn't have any direction in my life other than the fact that I think, a year or two earlier, I didn't even care if I lived or died, and I think that because of that, I didn't really have any goal of like, this is what I want to be when I grow up. I remember that I remember telling people like that I wasn't going to make it to 30. I would say that a lot. So I didn't really have much of a plan for my life other than just trying to be jacked. So wasn't a good student, didn't really care about college. But because I was into art, drawing, and being creative, I went to a Christian school in Ohio, Cedarville, and I was studying graphic design. Now, when I went to Cedarville, I was in a hall with a bunch of guys who were gamers, and they were cool guys, but I didn't have a lot in common with them. And I pretty much just I would go to my classes, I would fall asleep in them a lot, and I would go to the gym. And so that year, when I got there, a couple months, probably about a month or two in, I was eating at their cafeteria and I was just appalled because just their food choices were not what I wanted. So I was losing weight and I was losing strength. And that's when I took a pro hormone for the first time. So, that wasn't a good decision, but I don't think I was making a lot of those back then. I ordered, it was called Trenadol from bodybuilding.com. And I was like, I ordered Trenadol, I ordered the little PCT, and I was like, oh, I'm going to save myself from this, this barren land that I've been stationed in here. And in a 4-week cycle, I went from bench pressing 275 for 5 to doing 315 for 4. And I remember just being like, holy shit, this is crazy. And I just did it for 4 weeks. I didn't keep taking it. But I probably did a couple of those while I was there. Other than that, I really, well, here's another. So because of the food, I was desperate. And there was nowhere to shop anywhere in the vicinity of this school. The only store was a Quick Mart at a gas station. And I had no kitchen to cook in. All I had was a microwave. So I would buy chicken breasts from the Quick Mart and I would put them in a bowl and I would dump Frank's Red Hot all over the chicken breasts, and then I would microwave them for 10 minutes and they would cook. And sometimes the other people in my dorm would smell it and they would think I got wings, and they would come over and they would see these microwave burned chicken breasts with Frank's Red Hot. But I ate that every day to keep my gains in college. At the end of that year, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I hate this place. So I left, and, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. So while I was there, I posted some photos on, I think it was bodybuilding.com again. They had a thing called Body Space. And I posted some photos, and I got a very mixed response. But there was this one man named Irvin Gelb, who was a renowned photographer who had shot Ronnie, Jay, all the guys. And he reached out to me and he said, "You have a really great physique for being so young." And he was really kind to me and reached out to me. And of course, the Arnold is in Ohio. It's one of the only redeeming qualities of Ohio is that they have the Arnold. And he was going to the Arnold, of course, and he said, "If you help me carry my bags, I'll get you a media pass and you can come with me." And at 19, that was crazy for me, because I got to go sit in the athletes meeting next to Ronnie, and I remember I have a picture with Flex Wheeler and Ronnie and I met everyone, because I was able to cut the lines, and just because I was with him, so he would introduce me. And it was a really interesting experience, because when I look back, it seemed like these people were, on another planet, like something unattainable, right? And sure, some of them, of course, I'm not putting myself at their level, but there were people who I met. Specifically, I remember I met Flex Lewis, who's always been really cool to me. And, he was really encouraging. I don't remember exactly what he said, but I distinctly remember meeting him. And I was 19, and by the time I was 25, I was standing next to him in the first call out at the Arnold. So it's crazy how things work like that, you know. But going back to the Arnold, that was it was an interesting experience for me. Um, a highlight of my time in Ohio. So I go back home to Virginia. That's where I'm originally from. About 20 minutes out from Washington, D.C. So as I go back there, I don't really know what I want to do. So I'm taking classes at a community college, and I'm just working out. My grades aren't good because I don't care. And it just feels I'm wasting my time because I'm not fully applying myself. So I come to a point where I say, I'm just going to stop. I'm going to get certified and just be a trainer. So that's what I did. I think I got NSCA. And the first time I took the test, I failed it because I was like, I know what I'm talking about. I've been lifting weights for a while. I'm jacked, I know. And I read some of the book, but I didn't study it. And I went in and I got crushed. So I had to take it again. I passed it. Got a job at a gym. And I guess I skipped a lot. Hold on. I'm way ahead of myself. Rewind. So, back. So, after I got back to Virginia, after being in Ohio, the guy Irvin Gelb had suggested that I do teen nationals. And some other things I left out, but, well, I guess we're right about where it should be. There was a gym I used to go to out there called Olympus, and it was kind of a warehouse dungeon gym. And it's funny because I still talk to some of the guys who were probably my age back then, who I looked up to, the big dudes. And I remember a couple guys. One guy, Brent. Brent had been a top guy at the USA's, and Brent would always say things to me. He always encouraged me to compete. And initially in high school, I was like, nah, that shit's weird, man. Like, I just couldn't get over the whole like oil and the trunks, and like I said before, that had nothing to do with the reason that I started training. And I just had no desire to do it. But as people continued to encourage me and say, oh, you should do it, and I think I looked at the photos of the other teens, and I was like, yeah, I could do that. I could win. And the thought of winning made me get over the other stuff in my head that I wasn't so fond of. So I sold out, I guess. And so I'm getting ready to do my first show. I had to qualify for teen nationals at Southern States. I did in Florida. It was Fort Lauderdale. And I have no idea what I'm doing. And I don't have a coach. I don't have anyone helping me. I'm just flying by the seat of my pants. So I showed up to the show, and, to my credit, like I said, I was 19. I had no idea what I was doing. I got second place to the guy that won the overall. Evilio Costales was his name. Now, he was going to do teen nationals too. And so at the southern states, it had been an ordeal for me to get my tan. And so in my head, I was like, I'm not going to let this happen again. Next time, I'm going to be more prepared. So before teen nationals, they were only about a week apart, I think. So qualified. And people told me, you need to dry out a little more. So in my head, smart kid, I was like, well, salt. So I ate no salt for that whole week, and all I ate was boiled chicken breasts with plain unsalted peanut butter on them. And someone else told me that my skin would tighten up if I lathered myself with preparation H. So I was covered in hemorrhoid cream eating boiled chicken breasts with peanut butter, unsalted peanut butter. And I did look leaner. I will say that. So back to the tan. I was like, I'll just go get a professional spray tan before I go, so I don't have to deal with a headache there. So I go to this place, I think it was Hollywood Tans, and I say, give me the darkest tan you have. And the girl was like, oh, sweetie, this one, people say is too dark all the time. And I was like, sounds like exactly what I need. So they give me this tan, and I remember looking at it and being like, girl, this is not enough. And she was like, don't worry, sweetheart, it's gonna darken. So, again, I'm in Virginia. Teen Nationals is in PA. So, my dad, bless his heart, he took me to these shows. And my dad, this is totally not his thing, but he's very supportive and very sweet of him. We go to Teen Nationals, we go to PA. And as I get there, I'm looking at this tan, and I'm like, oh, this is not, she was not right. It's not darker. And so I'm pale, very pale. I mean, you see girls who get like one spray tan, and they're like just a little bit tan. They're not, dark mahogany like you need to be on a bodybuilding stage. So I'm there, and I'm like, this is a problem. So I go to the guy who's spraying everyone, and I said, hey man, and I try to give him a credit card, and I said, I need you to spray me. And he said, sorry kid, I'm not sure I've got enough spray because you didn't make an appointment ahead of time. He told me something like he wasn't sure he had enough, and he wouldn't take my money, he wouldn't spray me. So I was like, shit, we gotta just face the music. And again, if I had had a coach or like people who knew how to navigate this, I wouldn't have been in this situation, but is what it is. So I just went up there, and I look so pale in the photos. I look like a ghost. And as soon as I got off the stage, Dave Palumbo came running up to me, and he goes, what the hell is wrong with you? What are you doing? And I was like, the guy wouldn't spray me. And he's like, you would have won the whole show. He's like, why? Where's your tan? And I was just, I was super bummed because I was there against all odds. I could have won the show if I just had a tan. And so I leave prejudging. As I'm walking out, the spray guy, he sees me and he goes, oh, kid, if I had known you looked that good yesterday, I would have sprayed you. And I will never forget that because he should have never said that. That's a crazy thing to say to a 19-year-old, that you just crushed their dreams. But the kid who beat me was the same guy who beat me the week before, Avilio Costales. And they still gave me second place in the light heavyweight class because they thought I looked that good. So, and after that show, people were just like, wow, you're going to be so good. And I was like, wow. You know, it all kind of went to my head, I think, a little bit. Well, not went to my head, not to be like arrogant, but I was like, this is it. I got it. And so I went home. And here's a little side note I didn't mention. All this time, and all through my teen years, I struggled with acne really bad. Now, I know I mentioned the pro hormone before, but this was before that. Now, at this point, you know, I wasn't using gear to compete, and it was crazy the things I would get from other coaches. I can remember getting emails from people telling me that they could tell by my face and, you know, how I looked that I was being very reckless with performance enhancing drugs. And they were like, you really need to slow down, and really reprimanding me and being like, you know, you look good, but you're fucking up, kid. And it was really interesting because I know what I did and what I didn't do, and most of the time that people would be saying those things to me, I wasn't taking anything, and people would be mean about it. I can remember when I had really bad acne, being in the gym, and a father and son, and the father points at me, like at my face, and he said, see, son, that's why you don't take steroids. Which is crazy. Like, I was just a teenager working out, you know? Wild. But I think that's one of the reasons why eventually I just didn't give a fuck. And I said, I'm going to just do what I want, because people treat me a certain way now. There's a lot of reasons, but just adds to the list. So after Teen Nationals, I go home. I'm training really hard. Things are going good. I think I competed at Teen Nationals. I think I weighed 178. So at this point, I'm up to 190 something. Now, a week before Teen Nationals, I'd always been a pretty strong bench presser for my body weight. So during that prep, I was probably like 180, 185, somewhere in there. And I could still easily bench 315 for 10 reps. And I remember a week or two before getting under the bench press, and I felt a little pinch on my left side. Nothing snapped, but I felt a little something. And then whenever I would get under a barbell again, I would feel it. And so I would use dumbbells because I could kind of shift the tension. So after the show, and I get back, I'm training hard. It was, I don't know how much later it was, but not that much later. It was really stiff. And at that point, I'd never gotten hurt. So when my body was trying to tell me something, I just told it to shut the fuck up. So yeah, it was really stiff. And I remember getting 125 pounders. And I was like, gonna do a set of 12 something like that. And on one of the reps, my pec just snapped. I mean, just like snapped. Unmistakable. I felt the fibers just tear off. And I was like, oh my God, I tore my pec. And that was a really interesting time for me because for some reason, that made me have this epiphany of like, what am I doing? My whole teen, portion of my life, I didn't party, I didn't go out, I had some fun, but like, I denied myself of a lot of things because I only cared about this. And then, boom, like, it's gone. It's not gone, but it felt that way. And I was just like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. And I had this huge identity crisis. And I stopped training, started skateboarding again. And I starved myself down. And I became really, really, really depressed. And I think at that time, my eating disorder started to come back too. And it was a really strange thing to really explain, but kind of at the bottom of it, it was like this really strong feeling, really pushing me, telling me, you have to go back. You're not done there. Almost like, people saying, like, God is speaking to them. Like, it was a very, very strong, you're not done. And it happened to me multiple times that I've tried to run away from bodybuilding. And every time it's like something reaches out and is like, nope, you're not done yet. And brings me back to it. And so, this was a matter of months, and I start going to parties and smoking and drinking and taking pills and whatever, right? And of course, after a few weeks, that gets super old, and I start running into people, and they're like, oh my God, what happened? Because I went from being 190 something down to about 130. So that's very drastic. And I remember specifically at college, I had been bodybuilding.com's teen of the week at one point. And some kid on the campus came up to me and he was like, I recognize you from bodybuilding.com. What happened? And I was like, oh, and I had to tell him. It's just a very weird feeling. And so, yeah, I started back. I rehabbed my pec just doing push-ups, starting like this, slowly putting more tension. And I trained everything else in the gym. And yeah, at that point, I guess I was about 20. So that's when I got a job as a personal trainer. That's when I got certified, got a job as a personal trainer. And yeah, I feel like I'm gonna cut this one off here. And we'll resume this long-winded story in another video. But if you watched till now, thank you. And I hope you keep watching. See you next time.